1995. A 13-year-old amateur prospect in Youngstown, Ohio, dreams of boxing glory. Just as a 30-year-old Philadelphia ex-con begins a decade-long stretch of domination as middleweight champion.
The ultimate professional, the executioner at work.
Fast forward more than a decade, the teenage amateur has grown into a rising middleweight contender and is hammering his way to the top of the division.
Kelly Pavlik has a huge knockout victory.
Meanwhile, the longtime middleweight king, having lost his championship, moves up to 175 pounds, and at age 41, furthers his legacy with an upset win at light heavyweight.
What a performance by Hopkins.
Then, in a breathtaking comeback performance,
And down, Pavlik goes down.
the prospect earns the middleweight crown himself.
Down goes today. There's a brand new middleweight champion. He's from Youngstown, Ohio.
And now, 2008. The kid from Youngstown is 26, a champion, and one of boxing's rising stars, while the veteran warrior from Philly is 43 and may finally be showing his age.
Hopkins holding on as the seconds tick away.
Tonight, two generations meet in the ring as Kelly Pavlik looks to add a legend to his list of victims.
We don't want a close fight with Hopkins. I mean, go in there and beat him. We're going to dominate the fight.
While defiant as ever, Bernard Hopkins tries to once more turn back the clock.
We're going to see whether Kelly Pavlik can handle that initial shock after discovering he's been lied to. This guy is not over.
Opposites collide. Pavlik Hopkins is next. It's finally time for our main event. Kelly Pavlik versus Bernard Hopkins. Though both these fighters made their reputations as middleweights, they meet tonight as light heavyweights at an agreed-upon limit of 170 pounds. Conventional wisdom favors Pavlik's youth and punching power, but Bernard Hopkins remains, at 43 years of age, one of the most difficult tactical assignments in the sport. Kelly Pavlik versus Bernard Hopkins is being brought to you by Caesars Atlantic City, Corona Beer, Corona la Cerveza Más Fina, Affliction, and by HBO Pay-Per-View. The best in pay-per-view entertainment, brought to you by HBO. It looks to be a nearly packed house here in Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. It will be interesting to see to which of these two fighters goes the bulk of the allegiance in the crowd. Larry Merchant, a lot of expectations in this fight surrounding young Kelly Pavlik as he continues the glory of his early career surge. Must Pavlik duplicate what Roy Jones did 15 years ago when he was the last man to decisively beat Bernard Hopkins and produce a resounding win over Hopkins in order for a victory to have any meaning for him?
Consider Joe Calzaghe. His fast rising balloon suddenly plunged somewhat after he beat Hopkins. The point of this night for Pavlik, money aside, which is a major aside, is to grow his reputation beside the inside boxing world and Ohio. And that's very hard to do against a wily, cautious veteran like Bernard Hopkins. Hopkins reminds me of a character in the movie The Cooler, whose job it was in a casino to cool off the gamblers with the hot hand. Question tonight, can he himself still get a hot hand?
And indeed, with perhaps an eye toward the kind of impact they want to make publicly. Jack Lowe, Kelly Pavlik's trainer, has trumpeted long and loud the assertion that his fighter, Kelly Pavlik, will become the first man to knock Bernard Hopkins out. And by doing that, Emmanuel Stewart, he sets up the obvious, that now Hopkins, at age 43, can achieve a victory of sorts in public simply by standing up and avoiding a knockout in the fight. So what does Bernard do? Does he take the risk of trying to win against dangerous Kelly Pavlik? Or does he seek simply to avoid the knockout and then claim victory for standing up at the end of the fight?
Well, that's a rough question. I think it'll be after the first or second round. right now coming in this fight, according to Bernard, he said he doesn't feel that his legs can carry him through 12 rounds of running and staying out of the way of a fast, aggressive fighter like Kelly Pavlik. So he experienced that when he tried to do it with Joe Calzaghe. For this fight, he said he's going to go back to being a tough, Cajun, Philadelphia-type fighter, punching, moving in, doing a lot of things with short punches. We'll see if that happens. It sounds good, but after about 2 or 3 rounds, I think he'll decide whether he will go for victory that way or maybe the other way, just try to merely gain a victory by saying, I went to 12 rounds.
2 weeks and 3 days before a presidential election in the United States, 2 all-American fighters meet at the summit of the sport. Let's go to Michael Buffer for Free Fight Pageantry.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we would like to honor America with our national anthem. And here to perform the national anthem, a very special guest, a multi-platinum selling recording artist from Bunzi Records in Philadelphia. Please welcome the Grammy winner, Bunny Ziegler.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes